How could one photo ruin everything? Why did my husband say goodbye? The moment I finally took my freedom night, only for my world to collapse before sunrise. If you think you know what betrayal looks like, you haven't heard my side. I stood in front of our bedroom mirror, applying mascara with deliberate precision. Each stroke was calculated, part of a test I'd been planning for weeks. Callum sat on the edge of our bed, watching me with that infuriatingly calm expression he always wore. "You're really going out dressed like that?" he asked, his voice flat and emotionless. I turned to face him, wearing the black dress I'd bought specifically for tonight. It hugged every curve, showed just enough cleavage to make a statement. "What's wrong with how I'm dressed?" "Nothing," he said, turning back to his laptop. "Have fun." That wasn't the reaction I wanted. I needed him to fight for me, to show some jealousy, some passion, anything but this cold indifference that had been suffocating our marriage for months. "Callum, look at me," I demanded. He glanced up briefly. "You look beautiful, Iseult. Enjoy your night out with the girls." I grabbed my purse, checking that my second phone was hidden in the inside pocket. I'd bought it 3 weeks ago, telling myself it was just for privacy, for having something that was entirely mine. The fact that I'd downloaded dating apps on it was irrelevant. I wasn't actually meeting anyone. "Don't wait up," I said, hoping to provoke some reaction. "I won't," he replied, already back to typing on his laptop. Our daughter Seren appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. "Mommy, where are you going?" "Just out with friends, sweetheart. Daddy will tuck you in." "But it's late," she said, her voice small and worried. I felt a pang of guilt, but pushed it down. "Sometimes mommies need friend time. Go back to bed." Callum stood up and gently guided Seren back to her room. "Come on, princess. Let's read another chapter of that book." As I walked to the front door, I could hear him reading to her in that patient, loving voice he used to use with me. When had he stopped talking to me like that? When had I become the enemy in my own home? I pulled out my regular phone and texted my best friend Mina. "Operation Freedom Night is a go." He barely reacted. This man has ice in his veins. Her response came immediately. "Good, show him what he's missing. You deserve better than his robot act." The Uber driver was chatty, asking about my night out. I found myself venting about Callum's emotional unavailability, how he treated me more like a roommate than a wife. The driver nodded sympathetically, probably hearing similar stories every weekend. "Some men just don't know how to appreciate what they have," he said as we pulled up to the nightclub. The music was loud, the lights were dim, and for the first time in months, I felt alive. Mina and our friends Sarah and Jessica were already there, drinks in hand. "Look at you," Mina squealed. "Callum is going to lose his mind when he sees the photos." "That's the plan," I said, accepting the cocktail Jessica handed me. We danced, we laughed, and I felt like myself again. Not Callum's wife, not Seren's mother, just Iseult. Around midnight, a group of guys started dancing near us. One of them, tall with dark hair, kept smiling at me. "He's cute," Sarah whispered in my ear. "I'm married," I reminded her, but I didn't move away when he started dancing closer. "So, you're just having fun," Mina said. "Besides, when's the last time Callum made you feel desired?" She was right. When was the last time Callum had looked at me the way this stranger was looking at me now? When was the last time he'd made me feel beautiful, wanted, alive? "Take a photo with him," Jessica suggested. "Nothing crazy, just friendly." I hesitated for a moment, then pulled out my phone. The guy, who introduced himself as Brad, put his arm around my waist as I held up the camera. In the photo, we looked intimate, close, like more than friends. "Perfect," Mina said, looking over my shoulder. "Post it." I stared at the photo for a long moment. This was it. This was my line in the sand. I typed a caption, "Living my life," and hit send, posting it to Instagram where I knew Callum would see it. My phone buzzed almost immediately with likes and comments from friends, but nothing from Callum. He hasn't even seen it yet, I told myself, checking his last active status. but I could see he was online. 20 minutes passed. Then my phone buzzed with a text from Callum. Just one word. Goodbye. I stared at the message, confused. That wasn't what I expected. Where was the anger? The jealousy? The fight for our marriage? I tried calling him, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried texting back, but the messages wouldn't deliver. He'd blocked me. What kind of husband just says goodbye? I asked Mina, showing her the text. The kind who doesn't deserve you, she said firmly. He's probably just trying to make you feel guilty. Don't let him manipulate you. But something felt wrong. This wasn't manipulation. This felt final. I spent the rest of the night distracted, checking my phone constantly. No more messages from Callum, no angry calls, nothing. When the Uber dropped me off at home at 3 a.m., I expected to find Callum waiting up, ready for the fight I'd been trying to provoke. Instead, the house was dark and silent. I climbed the stairs quietly, not wanting to wake Seren. Our bedroom was empty. I checked the guest room, also empty. His clothes were gone from the closet. His laptop, his charger, his reading glasses from the nightstand, all gone. On the kitchen counter, I found a business card. Thornton and Associates Family Law. My hands shook as I picked it up. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to fight for us, not just leave. I fell asleep on the couch, still in my dress from the night before, the lawyer's card clutched in my hand. I woke up to the sound of the doorbell ringing insistently. Sunlight streamed through the living room windows, and my head pounded from the combination of alcohol and stress. The clock on the wall read 8:15 a.m. The doorbell rang again, followed by loud knocking. Mrs. Fenwick, this is official service. Please answer the door. My stomach dropped. I knew what this was before I even opened the door. A man in a cheap suit stood on my porch, holding a thick manila envelope. Iseult Fenwick? Yes, I whispered. You're being served. Have a good day. He handed me the envelope and walked away, leaving me standing in my doorway in yesterday's dress, holding what I knew would change everything. Inside were dozens of pages of legal documents: petition for dissolution of marriage, emergency motion for temporary custody, financial restraining orders. The words blurred together as I tried to process what I was reading. But it was the exhibits that made my blood run cold. Screenshots of text messages, GPS location data, and there, marked as Exhibit M, was the photo I'd posted last night, the one with Brad's arm around my waist. How did he get all of this so fast? How did he have evidence going back weeks? My phone rang. Callum's mother, Vivienne. Iseult, dear, what's going on? Callum showed up at our house at 4 a.m. with Seren. He won't tell us anything, but he looks terrible. He filed for divorce, I said, my voice barely audible. What? Why? What happened? I couldn't tell her about the photo, about the test, about any of it. I don't know. He's been so cold lately, and I went out with friends last night, and now... Oh, honey, I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. Callum loves you. He's probably just scared or hurt about something. Men don't always communicate well. But even as she said it, I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. After hanging up, I called in sick to work and spent the morning reading through the legal documents more carefully. The detail was staggering. Callum had documented everything, every argument, every night I'd come home late, every time I'd been secretive with my phone. There were screenshots of text conversations I didn't even remember having, including ones where I'd complained to Mina about Callum being emotionally unavailable and how I deserved better treatment. How had he gotten access to my messages? I called Mina, desperate for support. This is insane, she said after I read her some of the documents. He's been spying on you. That's psychotic. I don't understand how he got all this information so quickly. Iseult, you need to get a lawyer, like today, and you need to be careful what you say to people. If he's been recording conversations or something. The thought sent a chill down my spine. Had Callum been recording our fights? Was that even legal? I spent the afternoon calling attorneys, but most were either too expensive or couldn't see me for weeks. The few who could squeeze me in wanted retainers I couldn't afford, especially with the financial restraining orders freezing our joint accounts. Around 3 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of Seren at a park with Callum and his parents. She looked happy, laughing as Callum pushed her on a swing. The message read, "She's safe and loved. Don't contact us directly. All communication goes through attorneys now." I tried calling the number, but it was already disconnected. That evening, I drove to Vivienne's house, hoping to see Seren and maybe talk some sense into Callum. But when I rang the doorbell, Vivienne answered with a cold expression I'd never seen before. "I can't let you in, Iseult." "What? Why? I just want to see my daughter." Callum showed us the papers, the photo, everything. Her voice was tight with disappointment. "I don't understand how you could do this to him, to your family. It was just a photo. I was dancing with friends. I didn't do anything wrong. You posted a picture of yourself with another man, looking like you were together. How do you think that made Callum feel? How do you think it makes Seren feel to see her mother acting like that? Seren doesn't even have social media. Her friends' parents do. Word gets around, Iseult. You humiliated your husband and your daughter." I could see Seren through the window, colouring at the kitchen table. She looked up and saw me, waving excitedly. I waved back, tears streaming down my face. "Please," I begged Vivienne, "let me explain to her. The court papers say supervised visitation only. I'm sorry, but until this gets sorted out legally, I can't go against what the judge ordered." "What judge? We haven't been to court yet." "Emergency hearing this morning. Callum got temporary orders." She looked genuinely sad as she closed the door. I sat in my car outside their house for an hour, watching through the windows as my family had dinner without me. Callum moved around the kitchen, helping Seren with her homework, talking quietly with his parents. It looked so normal, so peaceful, like they were better off without me. That night, alone in our empty house, I went through the legal papers again. The timeline they'd constructed of my behavior was damning. Late nights out, secretive phone use, emotional distance from family activities. They made it sound like I was a neglectful mother and an unfaithful wife. But that wasn't who I was. I was just lonely, unappreciated. I'd been trying to get Callum's attention, to make him see that he was losing me. Instead, I'd lost everything. The next morning brought another brutal surprise. My work email contained a message from HR with the subject line, "Required meeting, urgent." I arrived at the University Advancement Office to find my colleagues whispering and shooting glances in my direction. Sarah from accounting quickly looked away when I tried to make eye contact. Even the security guard seemed to know something I didn't. "Iseult, please come with me," said Janet from HR, her expression professionally neutral, but her tone ominous. She led me to the dean's conference room, the one with glass walls that made every conversation visible to the entire office. Inside sat Dean Morrison, Janet, and a woman I didn't recognize who introduced herself as the university's legal counsel. "Please sit down," Dean Morrison said. "We need to discuss a complaint that was filed against you." "A complaint? What kind of complaint?" The legal counsel slid a folder across the table. "We received an anonymous report alleging that you've been using university resources and donor meetings for personal purposes. Specifically, that you've been conducting an inappropriate relationship during work hours." My mouth went dry. "That's ridiculous. I would never—" "The complaint includes documentation," Janet interrupted. "Screenshots of social media posts, GPS data from your university vehicle, and records of donor meetings that appear to have been falsified." I opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were printouts of Instagram posts I'd made over the past month, including the photo from the nightclub. But there were others too. Photos I'd taken during work trips, some at restaurants where I'd supposedly been meeting donors, but the timestamps showed I'd been there during personal time. These are taken out of context, I said desperately. I sometimes grab lunch between meetings. That doesn't mean anything inappropriate was happening. What about this? The legal counsel pointed to a screenshot of a text conversation. It was between me and someone named Dr. M, messages about meeting at his place, about keeping things discreet, about how understanding he was compared to my emotionally unavailable husband. My heart stopped. Those were messages to Dr. Marcus Holden, my therapist, but seeing them printed out like this, they looked like evidence of an affair. Those are messages to my therapist, I said quickly. I've been seeing him for marriage counseling. At his private residence, after hours. Dean Morrison's voice was skeptical. Sometimes he accommodates unusual scheduling for professional clients. There's nothing inappropriate about it. But even as I said it, I knew how it looked. The messages, taken out of context, painted a picture of intimacy that went beyond a professional relationship. We also have concerns about your use of university resources, Janet continued. Your university credit card was used at several high-end restaurants during supposed donor meetings, but we have no record of these meetings in your official reports. I always file my reports. Yes, but the people you claim to meet with have no record of these meetings. We contacted them. The room felt like it was spinning. Someone had gone through my work records with a fine-tooth comb, cross-referencing every expense, every meeting, every claim I'd made. Who filed this complaint? I asked. That information is confidential, the legal counsel replied, but I think you can guess. Callum. Of course it was Callum. But how did he know about my therapy sessions? How did he have access to my work records? We're placing you on administrative leave pending a full investigation, Dean Morrison announced. Your access to university systems will be suspended immediately, and you'll need to surrender your ID badge and university credit card. You can't do this based on anonymous accusations. We can and we are, Janet said firmly. The evidence presented raises serious questions about your professional conduct and potential misuse of university resources. As I handed over my badge and credit card, I could see my colleagues watching through the glass walls. Some looked sympathetic, but others seemed to be enjoying the spectacle. Walking out of the building where I'd worked for 6 years felt surreal. I sat in my car in the parking lot, trying to process what had just happened. In less than 24 hours, I'd lost my husband, my daughter, and now my job. I called Mina, desperate for someone to tell me this was all going to be okay. They can't fire you for having marital problems, she said, but her voice lacked its usual confidence. They're not firing me for marital problems. They think I was having an affair and using work resources to facilitate it. Were you? The question hung in the air. No, I was seeing a therapist, and maybe some of our conversations got a little personal, but that's what therapy is supposed to be. Iseult, you need to be honest with me. Were you having an affair with your therapist? No, I said, but even I could hear the uncertainty in my voice. Had I been having an affair? The line between therapy and something more personal had definitely blurred. Dr. Holden had been so understanding, so different from Callum. He listened to me, validated my feelings, made me feel seen and appreciated, but we'd never been physical. We'd never even kissed. Look, Mina said, maybe you should call this therapist and warn him that Callum is coming after him too. I tried calling Dr. Holden's office, but got a message saying the practice was temporarily closed. His personal cell phone went straight to voicemail. That afternoon, I received an email from the university's legal department. They were conducting a full audit of my work over the past year, including all donor interactions, expense reports, and travel records. I was being investigated not just for an affair I wasn't sure I'd had, but for potential fraud and misuse of public funds. As I sat in my empty house that evening, I realized that Callum hadn't just filed for divorce. He'd systematically destroyed my entire life in less than 48 hours. and I was only beginning to understand how thoroughly he'd planned this. The next few days blurred together in a haze of phone calls with attorneys, desperate attempts to see Seren, and the growing realization that my life was unraveling faster than I could comprehend. I finally found a lawyer willing to take my case with a payment plan, Rebecca Martinez, a solo practitioner who specialized in difficult divorces. Her office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service, which should have been my first clue that she wasn't exactly top-tier legal representation. "I'm going to be honest with you," Rebecca said as she reviewed the papers Callum's attorney had filed. "This is bad. Really bad. But I didn't do anything wrong. The photo was just me dancing with friends. The therapy sessions were legitimate. I never had an affair. The problem isn't what you did or didn't do. The problem is what it looks like you did, and how much documentation your husband has." She spread out the exhibits across her desk. "Look at this timeline. He's documented every late night, every secretive phone call, every time you were emotionally distant. He's got GPS data from your phone showing you at this therapist's house multiple times outside of normal business hours." "How does he have GPS data from my phone?" "Family sharing plan, probably. If you're both on the same iCloud account, he could have been tracking your location for months." The thought made me sick. "That's illegal, isn't it? Spying on me?" "Not if you consented to location sharing at some point. Most couples do it for convenience. Finding each other at the mall, that kind of thing. Did you ever agree to share your location with him?" I tried to remember. "Probably. We'd set up family sharing years ago when we got new phones. I'd never thought about it as surveillance." "Here's what really worries me," Rebecca continued. "He's got screenshots of text messages that should have been private. Messages between you and your friends, between you and this therapist. How did he get those?" "I don't know. Maybe he went through my phone." "These are dated going back weeks. Unless he had regular access to your phone or—" She paused, looking uncomfortable. "Or what?" "Or he had some other way of accessing your messages. Your husband works in data, right? What exactly does he do?" I realized I didn't really know. "Something with computers. Data analysis, I think. He works remotely for a tech company." Rebecca pulled up something on her computer. "Callum Fenwick, data broker specializing in digital identity and privacy protection." She looked up at me. "Iseult, your husband is an expert in digital surveillance and data recovery. If he wanted to spy on you, he'd know exactly how to do it." The implications hit me like a physical blow. "You're saying he's been spying on me for weeks, months?" "I'm saying he had the skills and the access to do it. And based on this evidence, that's exactly what he did." She showed me more of the exhibits. Screenshots of dating app profiles I'd created but never used. Deleted text messages I'd forgotten about. Even my browser history, showing research into divorce attorneys and articles about how to make your husband jealous. "How is this legal?" I asked. "That's the million-dollar question. If he accessed your accounts without permission, it could be illegal. But proving it would be difficult, and in the meantime, this evidence is devastating to your case." I left Rebecca's office feeling more hopeless than ever. Callum hadn't just outmaneuvered me. He'd been playing a completely different game, while I thought we were just having marital problems. That evening I got a call from Mina. She sounded strange, nervous. "Iseult, we need to talk." "Thank God. I need a friend right now." "That's just it. I can't be your friend anymore. Not right now." "What? Why?" "I got served with a subpoena today. They want me to testify about our conversations, about the advice I gave you, about the whole Freedom Night thing." My stomach dropped. "You don't have to tell them anything. Just say you don't remember." "Iseult, they have screenshots of our text conversations. All of them, including the ones where we talked about teaching Callum a lesson and making him jealous." I closed my eyes. "Mina, please. You're my best friend." "I know, and I'm sorry, but I have my own family to think about. My husband is furious. He says if I get dragged into your divorce, it could affect his security clearance at work. So you're just abandoning me?" I'm protecting myself. Callum's lawyer offered me a choice: cooperate voluntarily or get dragged through court. Either way, I have to tell the truth about what we talked about. After she hung up, I called Sarah and Jessica, my other friends from that night. Both conversations went the same way. They'd all been contacted by Callum's attorney. They'd all been offered the same choice, and they'd all chosen to save themselves. I was completely alone. The next morning, I tried to use my debit card at the grocery store, but it was declined. I checked my banking app. All our joint accounts had been emptied. According to the court documents, Callum had been granted permission to secure marital assets pending the divorce proceedings. I had $17 in my personal checking account. I called Rebecca in a panic. "He took all our money. How is that legal?" "It's not theft if it's done under court order. He filed an emergency motion claiming you were dissipating marital assets, spending money on an affair, basically. The judge granted him temporary control of the finances." "But I need money to live, to pay rent, buy food." "You can file a motion for spousal support, but that takes time. In the meantime, you might want to think about staying with family or friends." But I didn't have family nearby, and my friends had all abandoned me. That afternoon, sitting in my empty house with no money and no prospects, I finally understood what Callum had done. He hadn't just filed for divorce, he'd systematically destroyed every aspect of my life, and he'd done it all legally. 3 weeks into the nightmare, I was living on credit cards and whatever odd jobs I could find. The university investigation was ongoing, which meant I couldn't even collect unemployment. My lawyer was making noise about withdrawing from my case if I couldn't make payments. The worst part was the isolation. Word had spread through our social circle about the divorce, and people had chosen sides. Unfortunately for me, most of them had chosen Callum. I found out why when I ran into our neighbor, Patricia, at the grocery store. "Oh, Iseult," she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "How are you holding up?" "I'm managing," I lied. "It must be so hard, going through a divorce, especially when—" She paused dramatically. "When what?" "Well, when everyone knows what you did. That poor man, and little Seren, how could you put them through this?" "I didn't do anything wrong," I said automatically. Patricia's expression hardened. "Iseult, we've all seen the photos. We know about the affair. Callum showed us the evidence." "He what?" "At the neighborhood barbecue last weekend. He didn't want to, but people were asking questions, wondering why you weren't there. He had to defend himself." I felt sick. "What exactly did he show you?" "Everything. The photos, the text messages, the proof of where you were going during the day instead of work. Honestly, I'm surprised he put up with it as long as he did." I left the grocery store without buying anything, my hands shaking too badly to handle money. That evening, I drove to the neighborhood where the barbecue had been held. I could see people in the backyard of the host's house, could hear laughter and conversation. These were people I'd known for years, friends I'd thought would support me through anything. Instead, Callum had turned them all against me. I called Rebecca from my car. "Is it legal for him to show private evidence to neighbors?" "Technically, if the evidence is part of court filings, it becomes public record. But sharing it socially is ethically questionable." "Can we do something about it?" "We could file a motion, but honestly, it would just draw more attention to the evidence. Sometimes the best strategy is to let sleeping dogs lie." But the dogs weren't sleeping. Over the next few days, I received calls from 3 different friends, all saying essentially the same thing. They couldn't be associated with me anymore. "My husband's business depends on reputation," said Kelly, someone I'd known since college. "If word gets out that we're friends with someone who did what you did—" "I didn't do anything. Iseult, I've seen the evidence. We all have. The photos, the hotel receipts, the messages to that doctor. You can't keep denying it when there's proof." "What hotel receipts? What are you talking about?" But she'd already hung up. I called Rebecca immediately. What hotel receipts? I never stayed at any hotels. Let me check the latest filings. Oh no. What? They've added new exhibits. Credit card statements showing charges at hotels during times when you claimed to be in therapy sessions. That's impossible. I never stayed at any hotels. The charges are on your university credit card, the one you had to surrender. I tried to think, had I ever used my university card for personal expenses? Maybe for lunch occasionally, but never for hotels. Rebecca, something's wrong here. I never made those charges. The statements show your card number, your name, even your signature on some of the receipts. Then someone else used my card. This is fraud. Possibly. But proving it would require a full investigation, and that takes time and money we don't have. That night, I went through every piece of paper in my house, looking for credit card statements, receipts, anything that might help me prove my innocence. Instead, I found something that made everything worse. Hidden in the back of my desk drawer was a business card for Dr. Marcus Holden. But it wasn't the standard business card from his practice. This one had his personal cell phone number written on the back, along with a note, for when you need to talk, any time. M. I didn't remember him giving me this card. I didn't remember him writing his personal number down. But there it was, in handwriting that looked like his. I tried calling the number, but it was disconnected. The next morning, I got a call from Rebecca. We have a problem, a big one. What now? Dr. Holden's medical license has been suspended pending an ethics investigation. The state board received a complaint alleging inappropriate relationships with patients. From who? The complaint is confidential, but I think we both know who filed it. Callum. Of course. He'd destroyed my therapist's career just to strengthen his case against me. There's more, Rebecca continued. Dr. Holden is claiming that you seduced him, that you were the aggressor in an inappropriate relationship. He's trying to save his license by throwing you under the bus. That's not true. He was my therapist. I never... But even as I said it, I wondered if it was true. Had our relationship been inappropriate? Had I been seeking more than therapy from him? The line had definitely blurred somewhere along the way. Iseult, I need you to be completely honest with me. Did you have any kind of romantic relationship with this man? No, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. Did you ever meet him outside of his office? A few times, for coffee, to talk through some difficult issues. Did you ever go to his home? I hesitated. Once, maybe twice, but it was just to talk. Iseult, you're killing me here. Every time I think I understand your case, you reveal another piece of information that makes everything worse. I was lonely. My husband was emotionally absent, and Dr. Holden was kind to me. He listened. He made me feel valued. And now he's claiming you seduced him, and your husband has documented evidence of you visiting his home multiple times. I hung up the phone and sat in my empty house, finally understanding the full scope of what Callum had done. He hadn't just gathered evidence of my behavior. He'd created a narrative that made me look like a manipulative adulteress who destroyed marriages and careers. And the worst part was, I wasn't sure it wasn't true. The final hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in late October. I arrived at the courthouse with Rebecca, wearing the most conservative outfit I owned, and trying to project confidence I didn't feel. Callum was already there with his attorney, Thomas Thornton, a man whose reputation for ruthless efficiency was legendary in family court. Callum looked calm and composed, wearing a navy suit that made him look trustworthy and professional. Next to him sat his parents and Seren, who wouldn't meet my eyes. All rise for the Honourable Judge Patricia Williams, the bailiff announced. Judge Williams was a stern-looking woman in her 60s, known for having little patience for drama or deception. She reviewed the case file briefly before looking up. This is a hearing on the petition for dissolution of marriage filed by Callum Fenwick against Iseult Fenwick, along with motions for custody, support, and division of assets. Mr. Thornton, you may present your case. Thornton stood and walked to the podium with a thick binder of exhibits. Your Honor, this case involves a pattern of deception, manipulation, and marital misconduct that has irreparably damaged the marriage and created an unsafe environment for the minor child. He began methodically presenting evidence. The photo from the nightclub, blown up to poster size, screenshots of text messages where I complained about Callum to my friends, GPS data showing my visits to Dr. Halden's home. The respondent engaged in a systematic campaign to provoke her husband while conducting an inappropriate relationship with her therapist, Thornton continued. She used university resources to facilitate this relationship, defrauded her employer, and exposed her family to public humiliation. Each piece of evidence felt like a physical blow. Thornton had constructed a narrative that made me look like a calculating adulteress who had destroyed everything good in my life for a cheap thrill. Your Honor, I'd like to present Exhibit M, Thornton said, holding up the nightclub photo. This image was posted to social media by the respondent at 11:47 p.m. on the night in question, with the caption, "Living my life." When my client saw this image and responded with concern, the respondent's only reply was to block his number and stay out all night. That's not true, I whispered to Rebecca. He said goodbye and blocked me. But when Thornton presented the text exchange, it showed a different version. In his version, Callum had written, "Please come home, we need to talk about this." And I had responded, "Don't wait up." That's not what happened, I told Rebecca urgently. He said goodbye, just goodbye. Rebecca looked confused. The phone records show this conversation. I stared at the exhibit in disbelief. How could the phone records be wrong? How could they show a conversation that never happened? Unless... Your Honor, Thornton continued, my client works in digital security and data recovery. When he realized his wife was engaging in deceptive behavior, he began documenting everything to protect himself and his daughter. Mr. Thornton, Judge Williams interrupted, are you saying your client conducted surveillance on his wife? I'm saying my client used legal means to document behavior that was affecting his family. All location data came from shared family accounts that both parties had agreed to. All text messages were recovered from cloud backups that both parties had access to. It was all legal. Everything Callum had done was technically legal. Thornton then called Mina to testify. My former best friend took the stand, looking uncomfortable but determined. Ms. Roche, did the respondent ever discuss her marriage with you? Yes. She said Callum was emotionally unavailable and that she deserved better. Did she ever discuss testing her husband's jealousy? Yes. She wanted to see if he still cared about her. And did she ask for your advice on how to make him jealous? Mina glanced at me apologetically. Yes. I told her to go out and have fun, to show him what he was missing. Did you encourage her to post provocative photos on social media? Yes. Each answer was another nail in my coffin. Thornton had turned my best friend into a witness against me. When it was my turn to testify, I tried to explain my side of the story, but every answer I gave seemed to make things worse. Mrs. Fenwick, did you post a photo of yourself with another man to make your husband jealous? It wasn't like that. I was just having fun with friends. But you did intend for your husband to see the photo. Yes. And when he expressed concern, you stayed out all night? He didn't express concern. He said goodbye. Thornton showed me the text exchange again. Is this not your phone number? I stared at the exhibit. It was my number, but the conversation wasn't what I remembered. This isn't right. This isn't what happened. Are you saying the phone company records are incorrect? I don't know. Maybe. Judge Williams looked skeptical. Mrs. Fenwick, are you claiming that the phone records have been falsified? I don't know how, but that's not the conversation we had. I could see the judge's expression growing more disapproving with each answer. I sounded paranoid, delusional. The final blow came when Thornton presented financial records showing that I had been using my university credit card for personal expenses, including hotel stays during supposed therapy sessions. "I never stayed at any hotels," I insisted. "Your Honor, these are official credit card statements from the university. They show the respondent's card being used at hotels on multiple occasions." I looked at the statements in confusion. The charges were there, with my card number, but I had no memory of making them. "Mrs. Fenwick," Judge Williams said, "are you claiming these charges are fraudulent?" I don't know. I don't remember making them." "But you don't deny that this is your credit card number?" "No, but—" "And you had possession of the card during these time periods?" "Yes, but I never used it for hotels." Judge Williams looked at me with barely concealed disgust. "Mrs. Fenwick, you're asking this court to believe that phone records are incorrect, credit card statements are falsified, and multiple witnesses are lying. Do you have any evidence to support these claims?" "No, Your Honor." The judge's ruling was swift and brutal. Callum was awarded primary custody of Seren, with my visitation limited to supervised visits twice a week. He was granted exclusive possession of the marital home and all joint assets pending the final divorce decree. Furthermore, Judge Williams continued, given the evidence of financial misconduct and the ongoing university investigation, I'm ordering that Mrs. Fenwick's visitation be supervised by a court-appointed monitor at her expense. As the gavel came down, I felt my world collapse completely. I had lost my daughter, my home, my reputation, and my future. Callum stood and walked toward the exit with Seren and his parents. As they passed my table, Seren looked at me with confusion and hurt in her eyes. "Mommy, why can't I come home with you?" I couldn't answer. I couldn't explain to my 7-year-old daughter that I had destroyed our family with a single photo and a series of bad decisions. Callum knelt down to Seren's level. "Remember what we talked about, Princess. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes that hurt the people they love. Mommy needs some time to think about the choices she made." He looked at me for the first time since this all began. His expression wasn't angry or vindictive. It was just empty. "Goodbye, Iseult," he said quietly. As they walked away, I realized that this was exactly what he'd said in that text message. The real text message, not the one in the court records. He had said goodbye, and he had meant it. I sat in the empty courtroom long after everyone else had left, trying to understand how I had lost everything so completely. I had wanted to test Callum's love, to make him fight for our marriage. Instead, I had given him every reason to let me go. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Callum kept the house, primary custody, and most of our assets. I was ordered to pay child support despite having no job, thanks to the university investigation that had resulted in criminal charges for fraud. Dr. Holden lost his license permanently and sued me for defamation, claiming I had seduced him and then destroyed his career when he rejected me. The case was settled out of court, adding more debt to my already overwhelming financial obligations. I moved into a studio apartment across town and got a job waiting tables at a diner. Twice a week, I had supervised visits with Seren in a sterile room at the family court building. She was polite but distant, and I could see her pulling away from me more each week. Callum never spoke to me directly. All communication went through a co-parenting app monitored by the court. He was professional and courteous, but completely detached. I had wanted him to fight for our marriage. Instead, I had taught him that I wasn't worth fighting for. One evening, as I was closing the diner, I saw a familiar figure in the parking lot. Callum was leaning against his car, waiting. "We need to talk," he said when I approached. "About what?" "The app is working fine for communication." "About Seren. She's been asking questions about what happened, about why you did what you did." "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That sometimes people make choices that hurt the people they love, and that actions have consequences." I felt tears starting. Callum, I never meant for any of this to happen. I just wanted. You wanted to test me, he said quietly. You wanted to see if I'd fight for you. Yes. Did it ever occur to you to just ask me how I felt? To talk to me about what you needed instead of playing games? I tried. You never listened. No, Iseult, you never tried. You just expected me to read your mind and then punished me when I couldn't. He was right, and we both knew it. The thing is, Callum continued, I would have fought for you. If you had come to me and said you were unhappy, if you had asked for counseling, if you had given me a chance to be better, I would have done anything to save our marriage. But instead, you chose to humiliate me. You chose to test me instead of trusting me. You chose to destroy our family to prove a point. So I let you go, because someone who would do that to the person they claim to love doesn't deserve to be fought for. He got in his car and drove away, leaving me standing alone in the parking lot. That was the last time we ever spoke directly. A year later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Callum had started dating someone new. A teacher at Serene's school. Someone kind and stable who made my daughter laugh. I was happy for them, in a way. Serene deserved a stable family, and Callum deserved someone who would appreciate what he offered instead of testing him to see if he was worth keeping. As for me, I learned that some tests don't measure what you think they do. I thought I was testing Callum's love. Instead, I was testing my own worthiness of that love, and I had failed.